Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. It's our evening Shabbat class, the 9th of March, 2024. I'll be reading out of the Book of Nehemiah. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 900 or so that you can look at and examine. And I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like the videos. Okay. Our hours of operation has changed from 7 to 9, Tuesday through Friday. We got Central Time. And then we come back on Saturdays and we have 2 Shabbat classes, one in the morning from 10 to 12 a.m. and then we come back and close out to Shabbat for about an hour, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. Okay. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. We don't deal with the New Testament or the God that's in the New Testament. Tanakh is the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books that were given to Moses by the Lord of Hosts. Okay. Shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our evening Shabbat class. Okay. We'll do our normal, which is a moment of silence, evening Shabbat prayer. We read Psalms. We have some current events, some need to know information. Then we'll open it up for some questions or comments about previous classes or previous videos. And then we'll have our topic for discussion. And then we'll do some reading out of Nehemiah and close out. Okay. Moment of silence for the Lord of Hosts and all that He's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, we come this day, bow down, honoring you, praising you, and believing in you. And we thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge that you have poured out upon us through your prophets. You reveal the times that we, as Jacob's children, would endure the tribulation. Keep us, O Lord, and guide us and deliver us. And we see you now within the Holy Scriptures, O Lord, and we trust you with all our heart and with all our soul. Keep not that silent any longer, but shine forth on our enemies with our great power and our great glory. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, I'll read a song. Okay. Okay. Read Psalm 22, the cry of anguish and a song of praise. It's a psalm of David. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why art thou so far from helping me and from my words of my warning? O my God, I cried in the daytime, but thou heard not, and in the night season, and I am not silent. Thou art holy, O thou that inhabited the praises of Israel. Our fathers trusted in thee. They trusted in thou, and thou didst deliver them. They cried unto thee and were delivered. They trusted in thee and were not confounded. But I am a worm and no man, a reproach of men and despised of the people. All they that see me laugh me to scorn. They shut out the lips, they shake the head, saying, He trusted on the Lord that he would deliver him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him. But thou art he that took me out of the womb. Thou didst make me hope when I was upon my mother's breast. I was cast upon thee from the womb. Thou art my God from my mother's belly. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help. Many bulls have compassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round. They gap upon me with their mouths as a raven, and as a ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a bastard. Excuse me. And my tongue cleaves into my jaws. And thou hast brought me into the dust of death. The dogs have compassed me. The assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. I may tell thee, I may tell all my bones. They look and stare upon me. They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. But be not thou far from me, O Lord. O my strength has thee to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darlings from the power of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of a unicorn. I will declare thy name to my brethren in the midst of the congregation. I will praise thee. Yea, they that fear the Lord, praise him, all ye that of the seed of Jacob. Glorify him, fear him, all ye the seed of Israel. For he hath not despised nor abhorred the afflictions of the afflicted, neither have he had hid his face from him, but when he cried unto him, he heard. Our praise shall be of thee in the great congregation, and I will pay my vows before him that fear him. The meek shall eat and be satisfied. They shall praise the Lord that seek him. Your heart shall live forever. All the ends of the world shall remember and turn unto the Lord. All the kindred of the nations shall worship before thee. For the kingdom is the Lord's, and he is the governor among the nations. And all they that be fat upon the earth shall eat and worship. All they that go down to the dust shall bow before him, and none can keep away his own soul, keep alive his own soul. His seed shall serve him. It shall be accounted to the Lord for a generation. They shall come and shall declare his righteousness unto a people that shall be born, that he have done this. Okay, so this is Psalm 22. So I was talking about how he mentioned it like twice about uh, him praising the Lord in a great congregation. And so when you understand that it's those 3 feast days, they have three feast days, and not only that, they have high holy days. It's when all Israel come together, all the 12 tribes come together in Jerusalem, in the temple, at the temple. And like I said, the Lord is there. So David yearned for that, to be there, to be in the presence of the Lord, and praise him and worship him and make his vows. We see it in 25, Psalm 22, verse 25. My praise shall be of thee in the great congregation, and I will pay my vows before them that fear him. And he says it again up here in, let's see. Okay. Yeah, 22. I will declare thy name to my brethren in the midst of the congregation, where I praise thee. Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. Everybody good? And we go to some current events.
The conversation. The National Urban League finally released the results of their annual State of Black America report, and they concluded that our civil rights and economic progress are being threatened by what's going on today. And when I read it, I'm like, well, what progress are you talking about? Well, of course, they're citing over the last 60 years. Apparently, there was some progress being made. And I guess, maybe they're referring to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, where we actually got some sort of voting rights. where our ancestors went in there and, changed the trajectory of how we live today. Now, within that article, it cited things like the income gap, saying that it would take almost 3 decades for the income gap between white people and Black people to close. Also talked about higher education and a whole host of things. Now, the president of the National Urban League, Mike Morrill, said this: doors have been open in higher education, government, and the private sector in the 60-year period. That's important. Every measure shows progress. Then he also goes on to say, but I would have thought we would have been much further along than we are in 2024 with respect to achieving a sense of parity in America. And it's like, you think, how you thinking that when you all go and, root for the Democratic Party, who does not root for Black people? Now, I know the Republicans don't root for Black people either, but the Republicans, traditionally, they haven't been the ones knocking on our doors, going into the churches and telling us to vote for them, because they know how a lot of Black voters feel about the Republican Party. And they also know that the Democrats, more than anybody, benefits from Black voters. It's just a fact. And so you're surprised, you thought we'd be further along. It was like, how could you, when we're voting for a party that does not help us, like they say they're going to help us, in fact, they help everybody else. Surely you cannot really be thinking that. But as I delved more into the article, I was like, okay, so this is what they're really tripping on. Listen to this. The view of Black civic participation is also mixed. While the percentage of Black Americans registered to vote stood at 69% in 2020 compared to 64% in 2000, the percentage of Black people who voted in 2022 stood at 42.3%, a drop from 54% who cast ballots in 2002. There you have it. They told on themselves. They're worried about Black voters not showing up. As they said, it was a drop from 2000, actually it was more in 2002, and now it's less in 2022. So what they think is going to be this year, in 2024, especially with all the information that's going out from new Black media, right? People who are waking up Black people and saying, hey, stop voting for nothing. This is going on and that's going on. The migrant situation, and they're giving them the resources that they said they was going to give y'all, but they gave to y'all. You're seeing all this money go all overseas, helping everybody else's country, but Black people are suffering and struggling. That's why I'm like, well, what progress is, are you talking about there at the National Urban League? See, that's what they try to tell us. But we're at the point here in Black America that we can no longer believe our lying eyes, right? We can no longer believe the liars in the White House, specifically the Democrats, because we see what's going on. We heard Joe Biden say, y'all have my back, I'm gonna have yours. Well, he's had everybody else's back but Black people. We see that he's got the backs of the migrants and Ukrainians and Afghans and Israel. He's got everybody else's back but Black people. He's the one that's talking about, I'll be damned if I be made responsible for what my ancestors did 300 years ago. He's telling Black people, I'm not gonna do nothing for you. Kamala says it. She said it infamously. I ain't gonna do something just for Black people. No. But yet, I wonder why Black people are starting to show up less and less and less to the polls. And in fact, in 2024, you're hearing a lot of Black people say, I'm voting for the couch. Now, for those of you guys don't know what that means, it means I'm gonna sit my happy Black self on the couch during election night or day or whatever. I'm gonna be eating some popcorn. I'm gonna watch the returns. But guess what? I'm gonna sit it out, because neither party, the Republican or the Democrats, have anything for me specifically as a Black person. They have things specifically for everybody else. But when we ask for our reparations, well, we ain't got it. Where we find the money? Our ancestors wasn't responsible, but they want us to show up. So there at the National Urban League, you know what the issue is, and don't try to make this seem like somebody is threatening democracy and they threatening our votes. No, it's y'all. It's y'all that get hand in hand, lockstep with the Democratic Party, helping to sell your people more of nothing. But now you're starting to see that Black people are like, I will not keep showing up for nothing.
Okay, any comments on that? Okay, no comments.
Shalom. Well, as we say, that the Democrats uh, fought for to have slavery. And I don't
Right.
know how it turned around where they got the Republicans, which neither one of I'm doing, on the bad, looking at them bad. But the Democrats is the one who wanted slavery to continue. And once they start going back in history and put it out there, then they can understand what's going on. But you got some diehard Democrats, they're still going to go out there and they're going to still vote for Biden because they don't like the opposite person, the one that he's going against.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think they ain't got it now. Is they ain't gonna do nothing because they had Joe Biden. He was in a pickle in 2020 until he got Claiborne to jump up on him and talk to him. And Black came out. That's the only way he won. He made all those promises, and now he forgot. So they not in a good place right now.
Job layoffs, unemployment generally remains low. Expectations have pushed off a Fed rate cut until May, June. But bank stocks are really under pressure here. Some industry watchers say there are real risks ahead.
Bank of America, one of the largest and most influential banks in the United States, has recently sent a warning letter to all its customers, causing ripples in the financial world. This cautionary advice comes at a time of mixed signals in the market, with bullish sentiments tempered by concerns over valuation and potential risks. While expressing optimism about the S&P 500, the bank is raising significant concerns about its valuation, pointing to historical highs that could spell trouble. Today, we will look into the details of this warning, exploring the intricacies of Bank of America's analysis, potential market shifts, and the crucial risk factors that investors need to consider in the current situation. If you're a Bank of America customer, it's important to take note because this isn't your typical bank notice. According to reports, Bank of America is raising concerns about significant risks that could affect its customers. And we're not talking about the usual warning regarding phishing scams. This is a more serious matter. In a recent communication, the bank highlighted several factors that could pose significant risks to its customers. These include economic uncertainties, market volatility, and potential geopolitical tensions. This isn't just some warning message they send out every year. First off, economic uncertainties. With everything happening globally, from the post-pandemic effects to geopolitical tensions, it's no surprise that the economy is feeling the heat. And when the economy gets shaky, it can have ripple effects that impact everyone, including bank customers. With tensions simmering in various parts of the world, there's always the risk of things escalating into something bigger. And when that happens, it can have serious implications for the global economy, and by extension, your finances. However, the major issue is market volatility. If you've been watching the stock market lately, you'll know it's been a wild ride. Swings of hundreds of points in a single day have become the new normal. And while volatility can present opportunities for some, it also comes with a fair share of risks, especially if you're unprepared. You might be wondering, how does this affect me? First, taking stock of your current financial situation is a good idea. Make sure you have a solid understanding of where you stand and what your goals are. This way, you'll be better equipped to weather any potential storms that may come your way. It's also worth considering diversifying your investments. While it's tempting to put all your eggs in one basket when you see a promising opportunity, spreading your investments across different asset classes can help protect you against market downturns. And finally, stay informed. Keep an eye on the news and stay updated on what's happening in the world. Knowledge is power, and being informed about the latest developments can help you make better financial decisions. However, even after you have done all these, market volatility can affect your investments. To reduce this, the Bank of America has taken time to analyze the stock market. Bank of America's warning has caught the attention of all its customers. This warning has raised concerns and questions about what steps should be taken. According to the analysis by Bank of America, the S&P 500 is trading at a historically high valuation, ranking at the 95th percentile based on earnings ratios dating back to 1900. This level of overvaluation across multiple metrics is ringing alarm bells for the bank. Their concern isn't just theoretical. Bank of America suggests that while the S&P 500 might continue to rise, the risk profile for individual stocks within the index varies greatly. They predict a potential rise in risk for certain stocks, dubbed the Magnificent Seven, while the risk could fall for the other 493 stocks in the index. This dichotomy is attributed to the shift towards efficiency and artificial intelligence, AI, a reminder of the labor-like trend seen in the 1980s and 90s, which coincided with significant equity market movements. Despite the
So we saw last week that Bank of America was sending out warnings, and then we come back this week and they're sending out warnings again. And like I said, this is the biggest bank financial institution it is. And we know what Lehman Brothers did, so if this institution right here start going down, you know that's the end of America as we know it. Okay. I got some need to know information right here. I'm play this and then open it up for the Q&A if they have any questions, comments about anything. Okay.
he wanted to, he was too timid, and he felt that he wasn't yet ready. He would hurt his legacy if he didn't get reelected or what was too dangerous. So now with Joe Biden, he's living his dream. Remember what he said? He's on tape. My dream is to phone in the presidency. I would like to have a third term, but not if I had to work. I would just like to sit in my basement and just tell people what's going to do. And he said it, and that's what he's doing. Right now, the Obamas are running the country. When my point is they want Joe Biden the way he is because he's a construct. He's just a cardboard person they cut out and they plopped him down in the basement and they make him move once in a while. And then they run all the agencies. Obama's responsible for the border. He's responsible for the whole crime epidemic. This is what he wanted. And Biden was very useful.
People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man, or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
Barack Obama, name it, just name it. We came into that presidency with people on both sides of the political aisle that were really working hard to put race behind us and make it incidental to who we are. And all during that campaign, take a gun to a knife fight, get in their faces. My grandmother was scared of black men, threw her under the bus. Michelle, they raised the bar on me. Never been proud. Damn right. I got so sick of it. He ran about, I'm to the right of Hillary. As soon as he got in there, it was socialist medical Obamacare, which I think the medical system was never recovered from. And then he remanufactured the entire Middle East and was the most anti-Israeli president we've ever had. He alienated a lot of the Sunni monarchies, and then he promoted Iran, and the Shia circle and triangle, whatever it is, Hezbollah, Hamas, Lebanon, Syria. We had the bombing of Libya, where the Gaddafi epigon is that the children were going to gradually restructure Libya. They probably would have lost power eventually, but it was the idea you're going to go in there and bomb and just destroy that country. Then we had the Syrian Red Line. Remember that? Brought the Soviets back into the Middle East for the first time in 40 years. And by the way, they're still there. And then we had the hot mic, where basically that was the green light that got Putin into Ukraine. When he said, give me space, Vladimir. Tell Vladimir to give me space. I'll be flexible in missile defense. My last election, Putin gave him space. We dismantled missile defense, which should be very valuable right now in Eastern. And Poles would have been very happy to have it. And then he went into Crimea and the Donbass, etc. That was his foreign policy. We had the whole Trayvon, where it looked like the child I never had. You name it. It was just in your face and suddenly everybody started to recalibrate their tribal affinities. and then this completely nefarious, debunked charlatan, but a sinister one, not just a nonchalant charlatan. Al Sharpton was rehabilitated, and what was in the White House every week? This Freddie's Market, Crown Heights racist. You tell in Jews to come over here in their yarmulke. We blacks were doing this when you homos. It was homophobic. It was racist. It was anti-Semitic, and all of a sudden he's central point man for Obama. Go on and on and on. One thing about Obama people don't realize is that, yes, Obama won twice, and yes, he raised record amounts of money, and yes, he ran brilliant campaigns. But over his tenure, he lost 1,400 state and local offices to Republicans, and he came in with a super majority in the Senate and House, and when he left, he had lost the House and the Senate and the presidency. That's hard to do in a country that's controlled by leftist institutions. He was sitting in the meeting when John Brennan laid out the whole FBI Operation Crossfire Hurricane, and he heard what Hillary Clinton was doing. He knew all about his Department of Justice Attorney General meeting with Bill Clinton during the whole Hillary thing. You name it. This goes all the way back to Tony Resco and what his Chicago career. And now he has the gumption to come out every once in a while and lecture us on racial relations and stereotyping when he has what? Not the Chicago beautiful home, not the Colorado mansion, not the 40-acre Martha's Vineyard mansion, but the Hawaii mansion. And he lectures us on white supremacy, white privilege, etc. Remember, he hijacked the John Lewis funeral and started giving us rants about Puerto Rico and the filibuster being a racist idea. I could not believe that. Here you are at a funeral, and he's supposed to be giving a eulogy, and he starts ranting about getting rid of the Jim Crow relic era filibuster at a funeral. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, who filibustered Sam Alito? Wasn't it you? Right. Isn't it you? You tried to stop his nomination by doing what? Filibustering? And, it changed the Democratic Party. They had a party of Bill Clinton. I know Bill Clinton was corrupt. I know he was untrustworthy, but he was a realist and a pragmatist. And he and Newt Gingrich gave us 4 years of balanced budget. I know taxes were too high. I know all that, but we were not borrowing trillions of dollars.
Okay. So, like he said, if we can sit down in the basement and run the country without being in a line like he do it, that's exactly where we at. Bone running the country, and Biden tripping down every other place he go to. Any comments on that? Okay, I'll open it up for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions or comments about this morning or something they came across that they want to get a better understanding on, talk about?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir.
Shalom. I just wanted to say about the last video we spoke on, was speaking on. Yes, I believe that what they say when the president goes into office and they go behind that door and they get to talk and find out what's going on, that we never would know unless unless the president tells or we find out some kind of way. But he probably say, and I'm just saying, the country can just be ran like that. Everyone going up there just, when you go up and campaign and everything, it's already designed who's going to win, who's going to have this and who's going to have that. So it's no use of him going up and doing all the talking and everything. Get someone there and just sit back and, what he said. And that should be an eye-opener for a lot of people to see that this country can be ran by someone in the basement. And then Donald Trump said something like, there's a big fat man in the basement, and he's the one doing all the running with the internet or something. I can't remember exactly what he said. And now They put it out where Obama says he can sit in the basement and run the country.
Is that song?
Yes, sir.
Okay, somebody else have something?
Shalom. Yes, sir. I was gonna say this morning when you was reading out of the Book of Jubilees, right? Um, I think chapter 2. And
Okay.
right, speaking of the 7 years, keeping the Sabbath, every 50 years and so forth, right? So just going back and reading over the book, right? At the beginning it says the Book of Jubilees, the little Genesis, right?
Right.
So just wanting to know more information and researching on that. Like to me, the first 5 books, the Torah, is a lot within just chapter 2 itself. So I was just wondering why they call it the little Genesis, because there's a lot of information in the KJV within Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, you know, Deuteronomy, Numbers. It's a lot of information in that book also.
Right. Exactly. And I think a lot of it has to do with uh in the Book of Jubilees. They have the creation story in there. So I think that's what link it to what they say when they mean the little Genesis, because it's a part of the creation story, a version of the creation stories in Jubilees.
Gotcha. Yes, sir. And in Leviticus chapter 25, it really speaks on the 7th year Sabbath of rest and the 50th year Jubilee, which is in my book, is spelled Jubile. So, doing some research on what that word means, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, just doing research and wanting to know more, which is called Jobel, Jobel, which
Right.
means which means ram horn, the curved horn used as a trumpet to signal the year of Jubilee.
Okay.
So, yes, sir. So, after this morning, I don't know, it just was really something on me to do, more research and have more knowledge, knowing about Jubilee and really the significance of 7, because we know that is a very important number.
Right. It's connected to the creation. Matter of fact, it's connected to creating, or the creating. That's what he's always dealing with, that number 7. From out the gate, he started out with 780. But
Yes, sir.
if you go back to Leviticus, and the reason why it says tax the rams on it, it's in Leviticus that 7 years, 7 times 7, 7 weeks a year is 49 years. And then when that 50th year comes, the year following the 49 years, you're supposed to blow the rams on to signify that it's Jubilee year. So that's where that ram horns come in at.
Right. Yes, sir. And we see the I was reading chapter 26 also, when we are disobedient concerning that, right? Um,
Right,
you know, the Lord of hosts is gonna punish us, and that's what he did for when we didn't let the land rest.
right.
Yes, sir.
That's where the 70 years came in at in
Mm,
Daniel. That's where the 70 years come in, that we went to Babylon, because they wasn't keeping that 7 year uh, rest for the land for 490 years. So you get 70 Sabbath years out of that 490 years. So in order to bring in everlasting righteousness, to clean that up, he had to put them out of the land for 70 years to start to cycle back over again. Right. So that's what that is in Daniel when he's talking about the 70 weeks of years, and that's 490 years. But they wasn't applying that judgment or that law or that stature to their culture. And that's how they ended up getting cast out of the land for 70 years.
Right. Yes, sir. And just one more thing, Brother Leonard. This morning, we were talking about the limitations, right? So, digging into research and found out that you can even take what they call a sabbatical leave of absence from your job. So, to me, that just was an eye opener to me to say, hey, they know. They know what they're doing is not right. They know all these things that they have in place is really to oppress us. But then they come back and create laws like this that we don't know about, we don't bother to research, but they know about and they use it.
Right. It's what's got them propped up, and they, and they, everything, like it says in Isaiah chapter 60, the Lord of hosts has to redirect all the forces of the Gentiles back to us. And so by them doing things the way that they're doing them, they keeping the blessings and the resources of the planet flowing toward them.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And to just be like really finding this information and digging in, of all things, they named the information Genesis HR. Genesis Human Resources. Right. Like they have really done a number on us. They really have.
Oh, yeah. And it's just something just as simple as hitting the button on your keyboard and doing the research on it, because we're in that age where the information is there right at your fingertips. All you got to do is type it in and Google it, and it's gonna come right out. It's gonna come right to you. Especially the person that's searching it out on a daily basis, the person that's got a good foundation. The more you search it out, the more and more you get, the more and more foundation, you get more and more solid foundation.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. Anybody else got anything they want to share? Okay. I'm gonna play this video right here. It's just got to do with a lot of things that we found out and we just talked about. But this guy right here is talking about that in Isaiah 53, it has nothing to do with Jesus. So we're gonna check it out and see what he's talking about. And open it up for some discussion.
I've been studying the Jesus of history and his teachings for over 20 years. And one of the hardest things that I have to do every day is deal with Christians. And I know that sounds awful, so let me try and explain. Imagine you've got a best friend and he's madly in love with his wife, and you accidentally find out that she's sleeping with everybody. What do? If you tell him the truth about his wife, you're going to lose his friendship, or you risk losing his friendship. But if you don't tell him and he finds out later that you knew and you didn't tell him, you risk losing a friend. So no matter what you do, you end up hurting someone. Well, what's even worse about Christians is that most of them are really good people. It's just that they've been lied to all of their lives, or they've been lying to themselves all of their lives. And for many of them, their belief, their faith, their love is based on a deeply personal spiritual experience. And that makes it almost impossible for them to really see any information that contradicts their belief. And that begs the question, do you want to live a lie? Does reality really matter? In my experience, God doesn't need us to protect him from the truth. So I'm really hoping that some of you will want to know exactly what the facts are. So here goes. The Jesus of history has nothing to do with Christianity and everything to do with the Tanakh, the Old Testament. But the Tanakh, the Old Testament, has nothing to do with Christ. You know where they say, according to the scriptures, that's where they are betting that you are either too lazy or too stupid to check their references. Go to our website, click on the link, go to the original Hebrew and the Hebrew English translations, and you'll see Christ is not in the Tanakh, not a mention. In fact, the teachings of the entire Old Testament stand in complete opposition to what Christianity teaches. Let me give you some examples. Here's a list of the most common shock horror evidences people offer to me to refute the Jesus of history as though I've never seen them before. Example 1, proof of the crucifixion as a prophecy. Psalm 22, and in the English it says, "For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me, they pierced my hands and my feet." Now, the problem is that the scriptures that St. Paul turns to for authority doesn't say that. In actual fact, it says, "They are at my hands and feet," as in the dogs are at my hands and feet. The church changed the scriptures to suit the narrative. They are taking you all for fools. Another example is Psalm 2. Now, this is a bit weird, but bear with me. "Kiss his son, or he will be angry, and your way will lead to your destruction. For his wrath can flare up in any moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him." Now, Christian apologists have this to say regarding that passage of Psalm 2. The messianic implications of Psalm 2:12 are clear. It is not God who is being honoured with a kiss, but God's Son. Jesus is the Son of God, to whom those who want to come to the Father must show allegiance. Well, here's the problem. That's not what the scripture actually says. It actually says, "Do homage in purity." This fraud couldn't be an accident. Everywhere else in the book, the Christians translate the Hebrew word correctly as purity. Where did they get the word son from? Example 3 has got to be Leviticus 17 as proof that there can be no forgiveness without blood. All you have to do is read the verse before and after to see that the Tanakh forbids the idea of drinking blood. That's the whole point of the verses. In fact, Ezekiel 18:23 proves that God only needs our repentance, our contrite heart, our teshuvah, in order to forgive us. Do I desire at all the death of the wicked man? Is it not rather his return from his ways that he might live? That's the bit from Ezekiel 18:23. By far the example that Christians most quote is from the prophet Isaiah and the infamous chapter 53, the secret chapter 53, the hidden chapter 53 that those nasty Jews don't want you good Christians to read. Well, until the prophet Isaiah, most prophets just blamed the Hebrew people for their own suffering. If God had allowed a foreign power to destroy the country and enslave the population, then it must have been because the people had somehow offended God, was common zeitgeist. In chapter 53, Isaiah is giving the Judeans a pep talk, much like Winston Churchill's speech, "We shall fight them on the beaches." Isaiah is saying that God knows how much these Jewish people have suffered, but they will win in the end. The Messiah Isaiah is talking about is, of course, Cyrus the Great, who saved the Judeans from the Babylonians. Probably the best man, a better man than I, to explain to you why exactly Isaiah 53 has absolutely nothing to do with the Jesus of history or Christ, is Rabbi Tovia Singer.
I'm in Jerusalem right now. There is no question, 2,700 years ago, the great prophet Isaiah walked right where I am. This is where he preached. So imagine, let's think for a moment. Yeshayahu has just preached the 53rd chapter. And I walked over to the prophet, and I have now the parchment of this chapter in my hands. Okay? And I asked Yeshaya HaNavi, Isaiah the prophet, I asked him, who are you talking about? Because as it turns out, this is a point you must know, that the book of Isaiah, I think only about 6 or 7 chapters are written in a prosaic fashion. Almost all of it is this dense poetry that is used by the prophet repeatedly. There are a number of chapters that read in a way that, let's say, Judges and Samuel reads, but most of it is extremely poetic. So what do you think Isaiah would say? Isaiah would say, well, did you read what I wrote before Isaiah 53? Okay. I mean, isn't it logical that if I ask Yeshayahu HaNavi, who is this chapter speaking about? He would probably ask, certainly ask the question, did you read what I wrote before this? Because Isaiah is always introducing all the figures throughout the book. As it turns out, we would go to the chapters that introduce it, which missionaries are completely unfamiliar with. So let's look at, what does Isaiah say about the book of Isaiah? What does Isaiah say about Isaiah 3? If what I'm saying makes no sense to you, then you should never listen to this show. If Isaiah is not a foremost commentary on the book of Isaiah, then we live in an alternative universe. If we go to the chapters that introduce it, because Isaiah 53 is the 4th of 4 servant songs. So if we begin with Isaiah 41, we are told explicitly in verse 8 and 9 that Israel is God's servant in the singular. Isaiah 43, it's so important. Isaiah 43, verses 10 and 11. Atem eidainu Hashem avi Hashem b'charti. You are my witnesses, declares the Lord, and my servant who I'm chosen. I want to say that again. Atem eidainu Hashem. You are my witnesses, that's plural, declares the Lord. Avdi, my servant, single, the exact same word we find twice in the Isaiah 53 text. What purpose was that the servant of Hashem, that Klal Yisrael, not all the Jews, not Bernie Madoff, I'm talking of those who are loyal to Hashem. What is the purpose? What do we need a nation that is destined to be an Or L'Goyim? So it tells us, Laman, for what reason? Teidu, so that you should know, V'saminui, and you should trust me, V'savinu, and you should comprehend. What? Ki ani hu. I am him. That's it. Lefanai loy noitzer el. Before me, no God was formed. V'achrai lo yihya. And after, there will not be. And I believe Isaiah. Moreover, let's go to the next verse. Anechi, I, even I am the Lord. V'ein mibal adai Mashiach. Besides me, there is no other Savior, nothing. Isaiah 44, verse 1. Isaiah 44, verse 21. Isaiah 45, verse 1. You want me to keep going? Isaiah 48, verse 20. Isaiah 49, verse 3. Explicitly, Yeshaya is telling you, I'm using the word Avdi, my servant, that I mean the Bnei Yisrael. Now, it doesn't mean all the Jewish people. It means the faithful, loyal remnant to the God of Israel. If you want to learn more about it, the remnant of Klal Yisrael is described in many passages of the Jewish scriptures. We're not talking about the Jews who are writing for the New York Times. We're not talking about them. It's not talking about Bernie Sanders. If you love Bernie Sanders, what can I do? I can't. It's not talking about him. Okay, you could go to Sefer Seifania, Zephaniah. He was a contemporary of Yirmiyahu. He lived at the end of the first temple. Go to chapter 3. Read verse 12, 13, 14. I will leave in your midst a humble people. There'll be no lies found in their mouths, and they'll dwell safely. That is the servant. Moreover, listen up, Kindlech. Isaiah 53, that peace begins in Isaiah 52, verse 13. The chapter break is artificial. All Christians agree with this, and continues to Isaiah 53, verse 12. You got that? So it's really 15 verses, not the 12 verses that you see in Isaiah 53. Ask yourself the question, who is the chapter talking about prior to it? That means Isaiah 53, when you have a chapter that is entirely poetic, what would you do? I'll ask you, I don't care if you're a Christian, you're a Jew, it doesn't make a difference. If you have a chapter that's ambiguous, it's poetic, and that's clear, and you're teaching a class in the 5th century, you're teaching a Tanakh class, what would you tell your students to do when you encounter a chapter that is ambiguous? Think. What would you do? Well, of course, you would tell your class, if you encounter a chapter that is very poetic, highly dense, is using powerful imagery, of course you would say to the audience, to your students, the people you want to raise up from below, you would say to them, read the surrounding chapters. The context must be determinative. If what I'm saying to you is foreign, is alien, we live in a different world then. Listen to me. Of course, if you're a teacher of the prophets of Israel, you tell your students to look at the context. If what I'm saying is foreign to you, eisegesis, not exegesis, but eisegesis is the most dangerous thing, the most dangerous method that can be used when analyzing sacred texts. Eisegesis means to ignore the surrounding text and to take a passage out of context.
Exactly.
That's what the cults do.
Mm.
The proper study of any passage is, let's go to the context. Let's take an exegesis, which means let's study the text using a rigorous method of saying the context is going to determine our understanding of this passage. This is a normal hermeneutical method. This is completely mainstream. We don't look for the outliers. We're looking for a truncated mean. This is really very simple. So, as it turns out, what is Isaiah 52 about? Tell me. Isaiah 52 happens to be a chapter, and no Christian disagrees with this. It's clearly there, that describes Klal Yisrael as the victim of persecution. Nations such as Egypt and Syria are described there as our implacable enemies. There's no doubt that those nations represent all of our enemies. It's there, and everybody knows this. And Israel is spoken of in the singular. And that God will redeem Klal Yisrael from the hands of all the nations who will be shocked at the end of days. In fact, do this if you have a moment. Remember what I said a moment ago. Isaiah 53, that's the sort of the generic term, really begins in Isaiah chapter 52, verse 13 through 15. Hine yaskul avdi, behold, my servant will become very wise. Did you ever ask yourself the question, listen up, what does it say? What is the word right before Hine yaskul avdi? Meaning, what is the very last word of Isaiah 52, verse 12? See, Isaiah 53 really begins in Isaiah 52, verse 13. If you have a Bible, back up one word, and we have the answer. The word is Yisrael. It's Israel. Is this a big coincidence? So as it turns out, Isaiah 52 describes Bnei Israel, who suffers as a result of the persecution of her neighbors, and that God will redeem Klal Yisrael in the sight of all the nations. That's it. Now, what are we going to do further? Let's go to Isaiah 54. Well, what is Isaiah 54 about? Well, we want to know 53, and it's granted if you read Isaiah 53 out of context, of course you're not going to know who it's talking about. I would posit to you that if you read any book Lahavdil, that has 66 chapters, and you jump to the 53rd, you'd have no clue what it's talking about. What do? We go to Isaiah 54. Who is Isaiah 54 talking about? It's talking about Klal Yisrael, the nation of Israel, in the singular. How is Israel conveyed in Isaiah 54? Klal Yisrael is conveyed as a woman who is barren, who suffers, who endures the suffering of a people, but God redeems from the nations of the world, whose weapons will not succeed against her. And God promises, as the waters of Noah, no weapon formed against Klal Yisrael will succeed. We're supposed to believe the following from the church. Isaiah 52 is talking about Klal Yisrael. The very last word before Isaiah 53, meaning the last word of Isaiah 52, verse 12, is Israel. The last word. Please look it up for yourself. Isaiah 54 is talking about Israel again in the singular, who is suffering as a result of the horrible behavior of her enemies, and God redeems Israel. And you are being asked to believe by Christendom, by the church, by the Southern Baptists, by the Roman Catholic Church, by the Greek Orthodox Church, by the Assemblies of God, by Jews for Jesus, that Isaiah 53 is talking about Jesus. That makes sense? Really? Why in churches, when Isaiah 53 is discussed, never is Isaiah 41 discussed? Never. You know, when I tell this when I teach this in audiences, Christians, I see them. They come with their Bibles, and they're flipping through as I'm quoting this, and they're looking up. Did I make it up? I put it, and they're shocked. And Christians tell me, former Christians tell me, I never learned this in church. How could you not learn this in church? Do you know how much trouble you can be in if you have a book of 66 chapters and all you're taught in church are 3 of them? Maybe 4? What are you taught? What goes on in churches? So you have Isaiah 7, you have Isaiah 9, and Isaiah 53. Maybe Isaiah 61 is thrown through because of Luke chapter 4. How much trouble are you in? How quickly are you going to drown by memorizing passages completely ripped out of context? Now, there's another point here I want to share. I want to use this opportunity to convey, because I think this point is widely misunderstood. Isaiah 53 describes the reaction of the Gentile nations at the end of days, when what happens in their view is like nothing they ever heard. What they will see is like nothing they ever considered. Yikbasu malachim pihem. The kings of nations, their mouths will just be shocked. What will happen? They'll literally yikbasu malachim ki asher lo yisupar lehem. For that which was not told to them, they will see. Means what was not told to them in church, they're going to find a witness. This is a messianic chapter. V'asher lo shamu hisbainenu. And what they had never heard, hisbainenu, they will then understand. And they're going to ask the question, and listen to the Hebrew, mi hem l'shmuasenu zrei Hashem aminigusa. Remember what it just said before? He said, v'asher lo shamu. This is how 52 ends. V'asher lo shamu, and that which they had not shema, shamu hisbainenu. They will finally get. And then they'll say, me, him, who would have believed this report? I mean, gosh, if you...
Okay, so let's look at that before we close out. I'm in Isaiah 52. Like I said before, everybody wants to run to Isaiah 53 and holler him this and him that. But the meat is actually in Isaiah 52. Let me look at it real quick. Okay, Isaiah 52. We're just about there when it comes to prophecy. We're just about there. It says the last 3 verses in Isaiah 52. Behold, my servant. The servant is right there. That's in Isaiah 53. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. As many were astonished at his vestige was so marred, more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So you see right here, I'm going to read 15. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him, for that which had not been told them shall they see. and that which they had not heard shall they consider. So, like he said, when the Greek got hold to it in the Roman Catholic Church, they changed everything. So this information ain't been told to them. But that's not gonna stop the prophecy. So when the prophecy unfolds in their face, they're gonna say, well, I ain't never heard this, but they're gonna be looking right at it. But my point is, 15 says, so shall he sprinkle. So he's saying that Israel is a servant. No, he took the tribe of Levi to himself. That's his servant. It's like Jeremiah and the prophets would always say that they the Lord's slave. That's because he took them to himself. He's responsible for them. Like I said, that those high feast days and at the Sabbath days and all that, when they preparing the sacrifices, he's setting aside meat. They got meat set aside just for them to eat. He and then all the other 11 tribes have to bring them provisions, part of the laws. So the suffering servant is the Levites. 15 lets you know that. So shall he sprinkle many nations. And but all Judah don't sprinkle nobody. And Zebulun, Naphtali, they don't sprinkle nobody. It's only Levi, the one do the sprinkling. And 14 says, as many were astonished at thee, is vestige. So who have vestige? The priests. They have special garments they have to wear, according to what they're doing. So that's been ripped away from the Levites. Like I said, we at the bottom of the food chain. So when the Lord comes back and redeem us, they're gonna see those priests and those Levites standing there in his feet, in their garments, in their vestige. And they not gonna believe it because they're gonna be Negroes. So that's what he's pretty much saying, is just that he was trying to use that Yiddish, But anyway, that's the story of the situation. Is that the guy, when he started out, it had nothing. Isaiah 53 has nothing whatsoever to do with the New Testament and Jesus. And like he said also, was that because of the typology and how they use they created God made Serapis Jesus, then they went back and plugged him into the Old Testament. So like he said, Jesus is a part of the Tanakh because they built him from the Tanakh, but the Tanakh don't have anything to do with him. But he have everything to do with the Tanakh. Okay, ain't that something? So, anybody have any comments or questions before we close out?
No, sir.
Okay, so that video was Isaiah 53, has nothing to do with Jesus. If you want to go back and look at it and check it out or whatever. Okay, so with that being said, say shalom, everybody. We have the clubhouse at 12 tomorrow. If anybody want to check that out, or if not, I'll see everybody on Tuesday for our advanced Bible study at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom, everyone.
All right.